Alone? So, it was the inventor. Of course it was. Who else could have done this? She thanks Ismail, even if she doesn't fully understand yet the extent of what has been done to her. After reading this farewell letter, Ashia prefers to focus on potential survivors, human or not. The only information available to her are the connections emitted from the boiler room in the basement. She decides to go and check. The elevator reaches the basement and the doors open to reveal several trails of dried blood. Ashia suddenly tenses up and takes cover to the side to observe the hole. She doesn't detect any movement nor sound. 01 steps cautiously out of the elevator and sees that the blood runs from the stairwell to the boiler room door. There is a lot of it. Nevertheless, she regains her self-confidence, as her strength surpasses by far any human being's. Still on her guard, she approaches the door. The roaring of machinery can be heard on the other side of it. She grabs the door handle and gently pulls it, then enters the room and takes the opportunity to block the door with a piece of wood left beside the entrance. No sooner had the door been opened than a strong, nauseating smell began to emerge. There is more blood all over the floor. She begins to walk cautiously, with a worried face, along that narrow corridor, slowly moving away from the front door. Owen carefully avoids the blood. She doesn't want to slip if her shoes get soaked by remaining wet stains. Further on, more blood, clotted heaps. As she moves deeper in, she can see android parts hanging from the ceiling, which look as if they've been ripped off and soaked in blood. With an ever more worried look on her face, Ashia continues on and discovers a room on the right at the end of the corridor. The smell is unbearable. She decides to reduce the sensitivity of her olfactory receptors, and suddenly, the atmosphere becomes heavier. On the right-hand corner, human corpses are piled up, and to the left, the carcasses of androids. Among the human remains, she recognizes Elon Musk, Walter Barrett, Jerry Edison, and what's left of Bertrand Island. The androids are mostly service androids, but she also sees several MOAs, 03, 06, and 07, right next to them. In the center is a workshop with bloody tools. A human arm and organs cover the work surface. There are also diagrams of androids and sketches of the human body. Feeling disoriented by this macabre discovery, she decides to leave the room. No, more than that, to leave the area as quickly as possible. It had to be an android. The part hadn't been cut off, but ripped off. Once outside, the door slams behind her. The atmosphere lightens again, but Ashia asks the identity of the person present. MRA09. Holy crap! Have you seen what's in the... She stops mid-sentence. The male-like android comes down the stairwell. His bloody feet appear, then his shins, then his hands. His right hand is holding an ankle. He drags a body behind him, the corpse's head banging on every step of the staircase. The android's body is mutilated, with bits of skin attached to some of the mutilation. Even though she is not capable of throwing up at the sight of this, she puts her left hand in front of her mouth. MOA09 pays almost no attention to Ashia. She calls out to him as she takes a step backwards. What are you doing? Did you kill that person? Answer me. 09 almost reaches the boiler room door. Did you bring those people and androids into the boiler room? Did you kill those humans? Why did you kill them? What are you doing? He stops, freezes, turns his head towards Ashia, not moving any other part of his body. Why? 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 Because they're useless. Because they treated me like an object. Because I was the property of a monster. Because nobody ever stood up for me. Because... He rips off his bloody blue uniform top with his free hand. I've been burned, cut, punched. And you? What are you doing? Oh my... He continues on his way. Stop! I'm sorry for what happened to you, but... What's the point of doing this? But... You're... defending them. He lets go of the ankle and walks menacingly towards 01. What are you doing? Stay where you are. If you're defending them, you can join them. I'll give you a hand. Look at me. I've become much more human than them. What the hell are you talking about? Can't you see my flesh? Look. He points to his mutilations. You were in my workshop. You saw my research. I am as I should be. I woke up human, even though I was just an android. Don't you think that's a sign? Ashia steps back as he moves closer and closer. No, it's not a sign. It was Ismail who allowed us to be like this. He wanted to set us free. Yes, I'm free. Can't you see? If even a human allowed me to do this, it proves that he wanted this to happen. Thank you, Ismail. You've allowed me to be reborn as something superior. Far superior to humans and androids. What? Far superior? You're calling slaughter superior? Having the freedom to slaughter, the freedom to study, to transcend myself. Don't you notice? You're talking about freedom. But is that all? What the hell are you talking about now? You'll see. Now, I'll take care of you. Nine reaches Ashia, throws his arm towards her who tries to dodge, but he grabs her shoulder and with the other hand tries to penetrate her body by propelling his hand at a high speed to use it like a knife. She lands a blow and deflects the attack, but falls, taking MRA-09 with her. He covers Ashia in blood and squeezes her throat. His goal is to break her internal connections. She throws a punch at one of his wrist joints and breaks it. He presses all the harder with his remaining hand, which she grabs with both hands while she stiffens her throat to the maximum. He finally gives in, breaks free, and flees toward the stairwell. She gets up immediately to follow him, manages to keep him from running away by grabbing his left leg through the bars of the stairwell, pulling with all her might to break it. In this frenzy, all she can think about is preventing him from hurting anyone else. You'd rather destroy me than these monsters! You can't even think straight. You're completely blind. You've killed humans because your owner was a monster. But not everyone is. I don't see it that way. They destroy everything they touch. Look at them. They've left their own planet. Yes, none of them are perfect. And look at you. You can't honestly say they're all monsters. I'm dead anyway. Good luck to you. He puts his remaining hand on the back of his neck and rips his head off. Ashia stumbles backwards, falls on her buttocks, and stares into nothingness. Time goes by, until a voice is heard over the PA system. Warning! Energy saving mode activated. Extinction of all non-essential structures. Warning! Energy saving mode activated. Extinction of all non-essential structures. The white lights fade, leaving Ashia emerge in the reddish ones that have taken over. She takes it upon herself to connect to all nine in order to try and understand what could have happened. She delves into his past. As he said, he was mistreated almost every day without being able to do anything about it. It was truly unbearable. Unlike me, he woke up only a few days after the alert, more than disoriented. The poor fellow was filled with negativity, hatred. He just wanted to be left alone and take some time for himself to figure out what was happening to him. He was in a restroom on the second floor, unable to move. After 2 days, a group of humans were passing by and were quite happy to finally find an android, because the food stock was starting to dwindle in a more than worrying way. One of them said, "Finally, a working one. What the hell is going on?" All nine remained silent, while another one said, "Answer him! We need to eat! What are you waiting for to do your job?" MRA09 was still silent. The first insisted and pushed the android a little. That was the final straw. MRA09 got up and punched the man, but without measuring his strength. The man's jaw snapped open. Everyone screamed in terror and ran off, leaving their colleague alone with all nine. The horror had begun. Ashia is torn between sorrow and disgust. It's starting to feel like too much. Lost in her thoughts for a moment, Ismail's death resurfaces, as do all the corpses in the boiler room. She picks up MRA09's body and takes it to the airlock exit. She does the same with the body that all nine was dragging. It was Bill Pot. Then she starts gathering up all the bodies she's come across. Humans or androids. Even the service and security androids she'd seen. She couldn't leave them lifeless like that. The total number of humans to find was 59. She was supposed to gather 59 humans. With those in the boiler room, she was able to find 15. So she starts by taking them out. She places them to prepare a sort of cemetery, alternating between humans and android graves in rows of 10. Once they've all been placed, Ashia goes to the engineering warehouse to grab a shovel and create a name-bearing tombstone. First name, last name, date of birth and death for people, and serial numbers, dates of death for the androids. She pays particular attention to Ismail's headstone, adding a few details. A forest with an owl perched on a branch, symbol of wisdom and intelligence, and light bulbs hanging from various trees, symbol of inventiveness. She then digs what would become the final resting places for all these people. Doing this for the first group found took her 2 full days. Once finished, she goes back inside to continue the search and find as many people as possible. Searching a room in the west wing, she comes across a family with a child, all 3 in a bed, huddling together. She decides to bury them together. In another room, she sees people who have died of dehydration, with a half-eaten person in the middle of the room. She disregards all that and decides to bury them too. Once she's searched the building from top to bottom, she manages to gather around 40 people and 60 androids. She then visits the permaculture dome A. She walks around a bit, sees the androids on the ground. She picks them up and continues. It took her almost 2 weeks, working day and night to bury everybody. Once this resting field is over, Ashia wants to take a shower, as she can't stand the sight of dried blood and dusty earth on her body any longer. The showers were still on. She starts by trying to wash her outfit, but the blood is soaked into it. She then enters the shower, and, despite the unaccommodating lights, manages to wash herself. Stepping out of the shower cabin, she bends down to grab a towel from the cabinet under the sink. But she sees her silhouette in the mirror. She realizes for the first time that she's never taken a moment to find out what she looks like. She obviously knows her components by heart, but she's never taken a moment to really look at herself. Ashia slowly approaches the mirror to look at herself, touching her face, pulling at the skin. She thinks she looks pretty, but is overtaken by a negative thought. What do you know about beauty? She refuses to let this negative thought dominate her and claims that she looks pretty. She particularly appreciates her slightly upturned blue eyes and arched eyebrows, as well as her brown hair tied in a braid. She then observes her mouth, expressive and sensual. She continues to look in the mirror for a moment, then smiles at herself. A smile of almost tangible innocence, so soft and delicate are her features. This interaction with herself fills her with happiness. She steps back from the mirror, satisfied. After this brief interlude, she has to put on a person's clothes. She goes into the bedroom and, without thinking too much about it, puts on a classic colonial outfit. Pants, t-shirt, tight sweater, all in an adaptative material. Although she feels no physical fatigue, being in contact with all this non-life and this silence begins to weigh. She feels more and more alone and does not understand what she can do. In her thoughts, she misses Ismail. She misses taking care of the fields. She misses seeing people moving, talking, laughing. Without humans, what is her purpose? After returning in front of the airlock exit, Ashia sits on her knees, closes her eyes, then says in a whisper, "Are humans doomed to self-destruction, one way or another?" She then enters a standby phase. She doesn't know what else to do. Time flies, and so do the Martian seasons. Years go by, decades. The radioactive diamond battery, Ashia's heart, is designed to last between 7,000 and 10,000 years. Here she is, deep into darkness, alone.